I recently got the chance to play the preview of House of Ashes. A link to my full playthrough can be found in the description below the video. Now that I've had the pleasure of enjoying about a quarter, 28% according to the save file, of the game, it's a perfect time to go over some of the fun new things I encountered in the demo. First off, we've got some thrilling action scenes. Salim's chase is amazing and ends with a hilarious death for one of the Bat Monsters. Nick and Jason have a great scene of running away from monsters while keeping Nathan alive. The shooting is especially interesting because the developers have removed the target for where to aim. Now the aiming is much more forgiving, with the player asked only to move the reticle over a valid target. The color change lets players know if it's time to pull the trigger. The plot developments on display are intriguing. I can't wait to learn more about the Kalis system, Aegis, and whether or not the government knew about the monsters before the special forces were dispatched to investigate the area. More importantly though, if the place really was just a farming village built coincidentally over Naram Sin's temple, what was the Iraqi Republican Guard doing there? This line of Salim's shows that they knew the Americans were coming, allowing them to plan an ambush, and it's not simply a situation where they were already in the area when the Americans showed up. So how did they have that information? Who spied on or betrayed the US troops? It's so nice to see the curator before a possible death scene again. I can't believe how much I missed those in Little Hope. Speaking of the possible death scene, it's great to get some context for the teaser postcard from Little Hope. Also, the scene has been changed slightly. Now Rachel is swinging from side to side, helping to justify why Eric needs to cut her loose to keep it from being pulled over. All of the information about the Hodgson expedition was intriguing, and I can't wait to learn more about what they were up to. I was especially fond of the speech Randolph gives, as the game goes full Lovecraft with his lines about madness-inducing depths and things that man was not meant to know. More importantly though, we get a glimpse of the big mystery of the Hodgson expedition. Who sabotaged the explosives, ensuring that the temple wasn't buried? Did a member of the expedition go mad and decide the monsters were gods? Did the character I've been calling the vampire do it? Or, and this seems like the most likely explanation, was one of the local Iraqis the expedition hired secretly a member of the cult that keeps coming up in the Kalis files? And by the way, apparently I've been pronouncing Kalis wrong this entire time. Hopefully the bonus comic book is about the missing expedition just like in Man of Medan, which will answer all of our questions as the story unfolds in its pages. The last big takeaway is that Salim seems like the best guy. Not only is he worried about surviving long enough to get back to his son, on whose birthday the game is taking place, but he has an absolutely amazing reaction to seeing the monster get whomped by a convenient truck. Can't wait to see more of this guy in the full game. I also ran into a couple of bugs when playing. Even though I set the rapid button presses to hold down A, it didn't work when Jason was fighting the Bat Monster. In this scene, there was a gun floating next to Rachel as she looked into the pit. Not sure why. Now, some random thoughts and things I noticed. This brick wall has a completely flat texture, and where it's broken, instead of broken brick, they just have the regular rock wall texture behind it. In this shot, Rachel has a gun in her hand and another in her holster. It might be a mistake, or maybe she found a second gun? Randolph Hodgson is likely named after Randolph Carter, a recurring character from H.P. Lovecraft's stories, who served as even more of an author insert character than the rest of his leading men. I wonder where the attack scene from the trailers is going to go in the finished game. My guess is that it's somewhere between the scene where Nick and Jason rescue Merwin and the scene where they're chased by monsters. The way the monsters are presented changes so drastically between those two scenes that it feels like the beast's proper introduction must be between them somewhere. In the autopsy report that Rachel finds in the temple, we learn that the Bat Monsters are blind, they're hypersensitive to sunlight, they're incredibly tough, they're not good at flying, they likely hibernate, and there's something going on with their saliva. Do they have poisonous or acidic spittle? That would certainly explain the extensive use of this cuneiform symbol in the promotional material, since it means spittle or poison, depending on how it's used. When Rachel gets to this door, she observes that someone tried to break in from the other side, but there's no evidence of that. The door isn't barred, the wood isn't splintered, it isn't even ajar. Presumably they'll add a busted up wooden bar to this door later, but for now it certainly looks weird. I love all of the carved reliefs that the monsters scratched up. For a guy with a prosthetic leg, Eric is incredibly agile. There's something weird about the dynamite secret. It says that the detonators have been discreetly removed, but that's not visible in the picture. You'd have to pull those cables out to discover whether they had a blasting cap at the end of them or not. Even if that generator was somehow still functional, whether it's gasoline or diesel, fuel goes bad within a year. So the idea that they could be turning on the lights some 50 years after they were first set up is utterly preposterous. Then again, this is a series where a boat floated in salt water for 70 years and still had working electricity. Maybe it's elves doing this. The vampire comparisons were dead on, as the bat monsters aren't just sensitive to light, they literally burst into flame when exposed to direct UV. Note that there's currently a thunderstorm going on outside the curator's library. Is this just what the weather's like in Rome? Or are his bosses mad at him? Now, let's take a look at the premonitions that show up in the demo. Daylight shows Salim escaping from a monster when its arm is burned by the sun. Ultraviolet shows Eric setting a bat monster corpse on fire with a UV wand. Fallen shows Captain Dar shooting Eric to death, and then Eric falling down into the chasm and getting impaled on a stalagmite. Finally, Squeeze shows us a blurrier version of Merwin's death from the Collapse video. Okay, up until now, this has all been observations and theories from the demo I played. Now I'm going to jump in with a couple of pieces of outside the demo information. Stuff you can see if you have the game, even if you can't play it yet. So if you don't want achievements and chapter names spoiled, skip ahead to this time code. On the Steam page, we can see 7 achievements and their names. Let's see what we can learn from them. Casualties of War. Found all black pictures. This one is self-explanatory. The title might refer to this unbelievably bleak Michael J. Fox movie. Final Girl. Only one character survived the finale. Notice it doesn't say only Rachel survived the finale, so despite the name, maybe any character can be the sole survivor. Oorah! Eric and Nick shared a moment in the elevator. There's an elevator in the temple somewhere? Or is this from earlier in the game? It's an extremely nice temple, of course, but it couldn't have an elevator. Did the Hodgson expedition build one to move equipment in and out? Ghost signal. Eric ignored Nick's radio signal. Presumably Eric can screw Nick over after finding out that he's romantically involved with Rachel. Also, this could be the radio signal scene they're talking about. Illuminating evidence. Eric discovered the unexpected effects of the UV light. Here's that scene being shown in the premonition again. Into the sunset. Salim returned home to his son. This could mean one of two things. One, there's ending possibilities where Salim lives, and he can either get captured or be let go, with this being an achievement for the Let Salim Go Home option. Two, this might mean Salim dies at a key moment, and it's referring to the fact that his son is dead. I hope this isn't the case, especially since in the story trailer we see a flashback where he's wrapped a gift for his son. That said, it would be a hell of a rug pull if Salim is also dealing with the death of his son while all of this is going on. Old Dog. Balathu made 2 kills with his spear. We've already seen Balathu kill a guy with a spear in the preview footage, so this can mean one of 2 things. First, that he can kill 2 people in the prologue, or second, and this theory was sent to me by Ferret, the title could mean an old dog can't learn new tricks, and Balathu is still killing people with spears 4,000 years after the prologue. If that's the case, then the character I've been referring to as the vampire could well be Balathu, and he'll have a chance to kill someone with a spear during the main game. And here's one more little spoiler. Once you complete the demo, if you go to the load game screen, instead of showing the chapter you were on, your save file shows what's apparently the game's final chapter, in which Rachel is climbing out into the daylight, making her think she's safe. Presumably, this is when the eclipse will happen, giving the monsters one last chance to nab our remaining heroes. I was already completely on board with House of Ashes, but if there were any doubts lingering in my mind at all, this preview has completely dispelled them. The new camera system works wonderfully, the action is more intense than in previous games, without hurting the overall tone of the story. This remains a horror title, first and foremost. I've been the Hidden Object Guru, thanks for watching. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. For the moment at least, I still have access to the preview, so if there's anything you'd like to see done in the demo, let me know, and I'll see what I can put together. Special thanks to Supermassive Games and Bandai Namco for providing me with access to the preview. I'll see you back here for more dark pictures, but until then, au revoir. Hey, how about we watch that bat get splattered by a truck like 3 more times? God, I love seeing that.